Hello, YouTube.com, Twitch.org, Twitter, X Machine Games, Mountain Dew. How's everybody doing today? I am just a word from MakingStarWars.net, and today we're going to be talking about some of the Ahsoka numbers. Then we'll come back later on tonight and watch the actual show, so those numbers go up instead of down. Maybe, probably not. But I'll be reading from an article on bestmanbulletin.com today. But the truth is that like Disney needs to start playing to its strengths. That's where we're at here. And I think the real problem is when you watch the opening of Star Wars Ahsoka, you have this just like all this like weird stuff going on, like these like symbols, and it says like Coruscant, some other language. Like people don't want that. People don't know what that is. So what you have to do is you have to have a really cool opening theme song and play to your strengths. Like the opening theme songs of every great show plays to its strengths. Like what does the show got? What's it got going on? And like what are you going to see if you watch it? So that's why I stepped in. Disney didn't ask me to do this. Lucasfilm didn't ask me. Kathleen Kennedy didn't get on the phone and say like, hey, J-Dog, Stryker, can you help us? She's too proud to beg. I don't blame her. They were up here and now they're on some hard times. So, but we're going to help them. So I went and I just took it upon myself to write like a new short, 15-second theme song for Ahsoka, help boost numbers, help get the show back on track. So here it is. This show's got bucks. This show's got bucks. This show's got bucks. So good on the show. So good on the show. Right there's how you do it. That's how you fix the show. Show's fixed. Disney, you could have that. I mean, it's pretty much yours anyways, but you could have the rest too. So it's cool. Today we're going to look at this article from bestmanbulletin.com that I am actually joking about, in case any of you are face blind and think I'm serious. I know there'll be some asshole on Twitter that's like, he just wanted to show a butt. No, I did not mind editing that video. I won't lie. It was probably the most joy editing a video I've ever had in my whole entire life. But that said, this is from bestmanbulletin.com. Star Wars Ahsoka viewership reportedly lower than The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the Book of Boba Fett. So we'll read the article and dig into what all of this means, if it means anything at all. It's been 6 days since the eagerly anticipated Star Wars series Ahsoka debuted on Disney Plus, and according to reports, the show isn't faring as well as its quote Mandoverse counterparts. And you could always support Bestman on Patreon or give him a coffee and tell him I hate you, and give him some money at the same time, or whatever you want. Degrade him. He's into it. So just before we delve into the numbers of the Ahsoka sisters, it's important for readers to remember that these numbers are not official, as Disney typically does not release numbers for their series or films on Disney Plus unless the project in question is doing exceptionally well. Now, right here, what I find ironic about the whole thing is we actually have a huge problem that's part of the strike issue, is transparency on these numbers. And they want to rip off their creators. The industry in whole wants to rip off the people who they pay to make their content. They don't want to be honest with them. They don't want to tell them, like imagine if you clocked in at work and then at the end of the week, they're like, we're not going to tell you how many hours you worked. You're just gonna have to trust us and take this check. You would be like, you're crazy. And that's sort of where the industry's at. That's a bad example, but it's not that far-fetched, and so what they're at now is in wanting to rip off their own creators and not really be transparent with anybody. They're now left up to these third-party, analytics companies. Now, yeah, I believe Samba, I could be wrong. I think it's something like this. Like Samba has an app or sort of like spyware kind of stuff on like Samsung TVs, I want to say. Could be wrong about that, but whatever. It's the idea. And then it kind of tracks what you watch. So when you watch Ahsoka, it knows how long you watched it for. And then, so what is the value in these numbers? Well, not a lot of like deep value in the numbers. They're like estimations to some extent, but also we don't know the real numbers, so it's like just left up to that sample. Now, can we say Ahsoka did worse than Mando? We can, because Mando did better on the Samba numbers than Ahsoka did. So that's where the value in this lies. It's relative, I guess you could say. So there will always be two ways of spinning a positive for Disney. They'll use unique viewers, or they'll turn to minutes watched, which is fucking infuriating, by the way. It's so stupid. In the past, Disney, and because once again, you have an episode that's 30 minutes. Oh, that episode sucked. Nobody watched it because the last episode was an hour. So of course it gets double the minutes. It's a stupid metric. Bespin goes on to say, in the past, Disney have touted Obi-Wan as Disney Plus most watched premiere, which consisted of 2 episodes, with most of their series at the time only consisting of 1 episode premieres. And this figure was based on the number of minutes watched for both episodes and included repeat viewings. So I know I watched it a couple times. While Kenobi is Disney's most watched premiere in terms of minutes watched, it's the first season of Loki, which is their most watched premiere in terms of unique viewers, which represents an individual watch and not repeat viewings. And you know what? Here's my hot take of the day. I don't think that that Obi-Wan Kenobi looks great. I don't. Still probably my favorite Disney Plus show. If there was a big Disney Plus fire right now and I was in the vault and I had to look at all the shows, I'm looking at Mando season 1. I'm looking at Mando 2 and 3. I'm looking at Andor and Kenobi, and Andor's the one I should save for sure. That's the one that deserves to be saved. But I like watching the Kenobi series. I probably would run out of the fire with the Kenobi tapes, you know? That's just me. That's my hot take. So you could hate me for it. So anyways, you can support Bespin on Coffee. Like I said, tell him Making Star Wars sent you. We hate you. It's very rare that Disney releases numbers for their Disney Plus projects. So it's left down to the third-party data collectors to give fans some semblance of an idea as to how a series or film has been performing on the streaming service. And that's where outlets such as Samba TV and Plum Research come in and give us a peek behind the curtain pertaining to a project's performance. However, it's worth remembering that these outlets aren't official and don't paint the full picture. Yeah, and that's one of the things is like if you go on YouTube today, you will see people saying, these numbers are great. You know, some people saying, oh my God, it's the end. It's because of the woke mind virus. You know, you could really take these numbers any way you want, especially when you don't know what you're talking about or you don't care about the truth. Only Disney know how successful a series is and when the true viewership numbers for said series, what the true viewership numbers for said series are. Like when it's Willow and it just gets deleted off Disney Plus, the numbers were not good. Today, we're using information gathered by Samba TV, who are only able to gather information from select devices across the United States and therefore does not represent the globe or even the full representation of U.S. viewership. However, the information is still useful and still likely represents how a series is performing. Yeah, it's a sample. Just to a smaller scale and can be comparable to past shows or movies. And that's one of the other things, like when you see like 1 million views, that's 1 million Samba views. That's not 1 million views in total. How many of you have Samba on your setup? I don't. And I watch the show a bunch, stuff like that. So, hey, Garth, thank you for the super chat, bud. Garth gave a $4.99 super chat and says, honestly, it's crazy to hear how low numbers are on this. It's possible that Kenobi turned a lot of folks off, but who knows? I don't know, Garth. Kenobi's not the most recent Star Wars show. That's my take. Like you've had Kenobi, then we had Andor, we had Mando. I mean, I'm probably forgetting something. Am I forgetting anything? But, I think it just has more to do with the fact that they keep picking these shows that are like character based, that it doesn't sound intriguing. when I just hear, love you, Maria. But if there's a show just called Maria, I don't know what that is. But if the show's called, Maria makes a fan film, then I'm like, oh, it's a movie about a show about a woman making a fan film. I want to see that. You know what I mean? And, just imagine if Return of the Jedi was just called, Anakin. It's not good. It's not intriguing. And I think that the marketing for these things is cookie cutter. They keep using the same marketing that doesn't work. It's not good. They think they got it figured out. But they don't. They don't know what they're doing. It's not very inspired. It doesn't catch the eye, unless you make butt jokes. That's the only way I see it catching the eye. But yeah, you could be right. I mean, I'm not gonna say that there wasn't one person who, or a few people that are like, I don't like Kenobi, therefore I'm out. I will never watch Disney Plus again and unsubscribe. That's completely like possible. I'm hearing that Bespin Bulletin is not liking the some of the stuff I've been saying about him. Some of the stuff I've been saying about his butt game. So, all right. Hey, Meg, how's it going? By the way, Santa's live right now, and I Santa's my buddy. I didn't know that, and I went live at the same time. So after my show, me first, you could go check out Star Wars Santa show after. Love you, Santa. Sorry. That said, the information. Okay, so Samba TV are reporting that after 6 days, so it hasn't even been a full week for the record, too. The first episode of Ahsoka was watched by 1.2 million U.S. households. The number is smaller than past Mandoverse series such as the Book of Boba Fett, which brought in 1.7 million. So I gotta say though, Boba Fett bringing in 1.7 million compared to Ahsoka. I mean, Boba Fett has, a good 25, 30 years worth of growth of background nostalgia to come up and, you know what I mean? Like become a cultural phenomenon, as they would want us to believe. So in some ways, those numbers aren't as bad as it would look. I think in a way. What do you think, Mr. Bestino?
What part are we on the article?
I'm looking at. I'm talking about the Boba Fett numbers being 1.7 million compared to 1.2 million. I mean, Boba Fett's had like years of growth, and I played with this action figure when I was like a little kid and wanted a Boba Fett story movie. I always thought that would be the most fun thing. So what I'm saying is, Ahsoka only having 1.2 versus 1.7 million for Boba Fett. Ahsoka's had some growth, some shows to grow the character in more recent times than Boba Fett too, but that's still not like that awful considering.
Yeah, but we got to look at it as in 1.7. What does that mean when it's the wider scale?
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that it's something like 7 million? So when you take away the percentage that Ahsoka is lower than Boba Fett this time around, like what does that mean? You know what I
mean? You're saying like what is the exponential like difference in those numbers as it grows out to the wider audience?
Yeah, because here it's just like 500,000, but like in reality, what is it? Is it a few mil?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is to remember about Boba Fett is it's a show that like they started well, dipped, and then did well again towards the end.
Yes,
which is uncommon, but like people believe that it happened to Boba Fett because of the appearance of Din and then the Luke Skywalker stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so 1.7 for Boba Fett is good, and there's numbers to how it performed overall by the time we get to the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be like worth looking at that because this one is supposedly more similar to Andor in terms of viewership.
Right. And like with Andor, it's easy to like chalk it up to, oh, this one's very serious adult Star Wars, so it doesn't like it, well, you know what's funny, dude, about both of these shows? My son he's 9-year-old boy. Just that's my sample. That's my Samba sample. 9-year-old boy. He could watch Andor in like 15-minute chunks. then he just gets up. But he likes the 15, but it doesn't keep him there. It doesn't, like a Wampa doesn't walk out after the 15 minutes and then he's like reinvigorated, you know what I mean? So he just he bounces. And with the Ahsoka series on that first episode, it was so like had so many slow brooding moments. It was like, just trust me, just keep watching, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a complete, this is the show I would have thought he would have liked, but it's actually just as difficult to keep him in the chair on this one as well, which is, you know, but that might just be my kid at the same time right now at that age. But so you go on to write. They had 1.6 million unique viewers for The Mandalorian season 3 after 5 days, and down significantly from their biggest performer, Obi-Wan Kenobi, which debuted with 2.4 million unique viewers in 5 days. The numbers listed were all reported by Samba TV, and as you can also see, Ahsoka had an additional day of tracking when compared to the series mentioned. So I think one of the takeaways from this is that they did. I don't know. I think it might be the schedule. I don't believe that like Kenobi was the cheap one. Like they made it cheap, but I think they made it fast. And that's probably where the budget actually went on that show. But what's hilarious is like that was their big moment. As we're looking back at this era of Disney Plus, Kenobi was the big moment, and they pulled the punches to save money, basically. And that's
the show, like, because they were supposed to be in Pinewood for like the longest time, and then they had like huge sets built like out at the back lot and stuff, and obviously things inside, and then
they had a big Tatooine like that. The Moss not Moss Eisley little set was made.
It was there for a long time as well. Even after the show had come out, it was still there at like Pinewood.
R5D4 that we got, the R5D4 we see in Mando, I heard was built for that. Was supposed to be in that show, and then they shipped them over from Pinewood to El Segundo or whatever.
Yeah, so it was like, because they deemed it was safer to film it in the US on that lot and in Manhattan Beach due to COVID at the time, you know.
So Garth says, I wanted to ask you your opinion on what Garth said. Garth sent 249 super chats. I appreciate that, Garth. And so he says, honestly, it's crazy to hear low numbers on this. It's possible that Kenobi turned a lot of folks off, but who knows? Now, my initial gut reaction was there's been a lot of shows since Kenobi, so I don't know if we could attribute it to Kenobi. Do you think that mattered? Do you think weight, or do you think it's too far?
I think you know, the thing is to look at is Kenobi's initial numbers was like more than double Ahsoka's, and the marketing felt more substantial for Kenobi. A lot more people that I know personally tuned in just because they knew it was Obi-Wan. They weren't following the other shows. They weren't following anything else. They're not into Star Wars, I guess. But they know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is.
And Darth Vader's in it.
Exactly. And then like you push all that stuff in the market, and more casual viewers will tune in. And with Ahsoka, me and you, we talked about this endlessly on like Fortnite and stuff before, like months before the show came out. And we were like, for the Ahsoka marketing, they need to go a different route. They need to be showing Anakin and Vader. Like if you've got like, just a face shot of Anakin, like a new one, put in the Vader shot, because it's a spoiler for fans, but they've used an Anakin shot from Obi-Wan Kenobi and did a voiceover. But like at that point, if you want to market it to a wider audience, you need to be like, hey, Anakin Skywalker's in this, Darth Vader's in this. Like Darth Vader sells toys, he sells movies, he sells all of it. He's so recognizable. He's probably like arguably the most recognizable villain of all time.
You define Star Wars for a lot of people in some ways. Yeah,
you put him in the marketing, it'll do a lot better. Like me and you, we became so frustrated and bored of the marketing because it was the same thing like over and over again.
And we're the choir. Like they're preaching to the choir, and the choir's like, we're tired of hearing this sermon, bud.
So how are you bringing in the people who don't watch The Mandalorian and don't watch Boba Fett, and for that reason they definitely did not watch Rebels or Clone Wars, Like,
Nah, come on now.
nah, come on now. Like you know you need to do more to bring people in. Like we
Yeah.
said, they mishandled the Indiana Jones marketing. I think they've
Oh
handled them
yeah.
both differently. Like they treated Indiana Jones like they would treat a Star Wars movie, but they've treated this Ahsoka series like they would any other like
I
Star Wars
for
show.
I this is the analogy that has come to mind.
Mm,
But it's like Disney Star Wars right now is like an aging stripper. It
hmm
doesn't know that the party's over.
hmm
It's time you got to start living up to something. You can't just coast on your looks anymore. And that's where they're at with all of their like oh, spoilers. Oh, we got spoilers everywhere. Oh no, we can't show. No, you need to fucking sell. If Yoda's in this shit, you need to sell it like as that, because they're valuing like their actual performance over this like small sect of fans who are like, I don't watch any they don't watch your trailers anyway.
hmm
Like those people don't, they stay away from everything. So fuck them. Sell the product to play to its strengths. I made the joke at the opening of the show about butts,
hmm
but show your butts. And if your butts are Anakin, if your butts are Yoda, if it's any of that stuff, yeah, sell it, because most of the time when that stuff happens, it's not the most important thing in the story. Like if the only reason that episode of Rebels is good is because Yoda shows up, then that episode of Rebels wasn't good anyways.
hmm
Like that's just you coasting on your past looks. You know what I mean? Like that's all. And
Yeah.
they need to like they need to this the whole rollout of everything. It sucks. It's not good. Character posters. What the fuck even is that? That's not a thing. You think it's a thing, Disney, but it's not. It gets people talking about it. Sure, a little bit, but once again, it's the choir who's
But it
talking
just
about it.
yeah, it just gets engagement for the fans who would share everything anyway. Like that's all it
Yeah.
does.
But
And
it's
that's
like that's considered a thing for the day. That's
yeah,
lazy.
yeah.
That's lazy.
But it's like I don't know. Like I said, I think the Ahsoka marketing they put out a lot of they pushed it heavily, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's been the wrong push. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
with a show like this, you need to, like I said, the casual viewers don't know who they are, like who these characters are, to the most point. Like if you sell them, here's Anakin, here's Vader, just glimpses in the trailer. You
Mm-hmm.
push the lightsaber fights heavy, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe you play down some of the goofiness. Like Hera and some of those trailers did not look very good.
What's a rebel? He's a rebel.
Yeah, and then you put in lines like that. But yeah, like I think
What
there's
does that
more
even
to it
fucking mean? Like
because
people
this is
go people become lame all the time. No, it's not
because
true.
Ahsoka, like she's huge. She's huge in the Star Wars community.
Yeah.
Like you go to any convention, you'll see like 1,000 Ahsokas. Like there's so much love for her all over social media and over YouTube and wherever else. But in reality, that's a bubble. Like the
Yeah.
casual audience, the people who did tune into Obi-Wan Kenobi, don't know who Ahsoka is. Like
Mm-hmm.
they just don't. Why do we need to care about this character? Like why should I
I had
invest
a
time in it?
5-minute phone call with my father trying to explain to him that that's not a hat on her head.
hmm Yeah,
Just I mean that's where we're at. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
with some of this shit. Like what are those
And then
like a court jester? I'm like, no, it's
yeah,
not. Those are like that's her like living things.
and then you get to we'll get to the point later on in this article about like the drop off between the first episodes, even though they come out at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who've seen the first episode, who I know of, who aren't fans like you and I and everybody in this chat are, like that first episode would leave them confused.
Yeah.
Like they're like, well, who? Like Ezra
Yeah.
being like, why do we care about these characters? Like the show feels like it's picking up from Rebels, and that's good for us. It's good for us to continue in that story because we've seen it, we've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But to the casual audience, they're like having to like just take on in this information and not understand it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then again, I didn't mind the pace in the first episode. I enjoyed it. But like I said, like some people thought it was boring.
Yeah.
Like you didn't have a good time with the pacing. Um,
No.
so that
I've
could have turned people
accepted
off
it.
the wall.
I've
Yeah, yeah.
accepted it and enjoyed it more since my first viewing. But I don't I'm okay with the idea. I just don't think you open on it.
But I think we talked about this before any of this came out, like weeks ago, months ago,
Yeah.
wherever. And I think you asked me like, how do you think Ahsoka will do?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I think it'll do worse than the other shows, but it'll do better than
Mm-hmm.
Andor because I thought like
Yeah. I was asking you, I was like, she's, had a lot of growth over the years via these like little cartoons, or little, and I say little, lovingly, over the years, but like, she's not like Obi-Wan Kenobi,
It's only
and
growth
then
within the Star Wars
but I
fandom.
remember your response was like, I think it could do really well because we see all of these fans dressing up. Like you see more Ahsokas and stuff like that, and Rays and stuff like that than but Ahsoka's particular, like you were talking about, like at Celebration. And it's like that's where we run into the problem here.
Yes,
Is like yeah, you have to, like to use the church analogy, you got to keep the choir happy, but the congregation needs to be serviced too. And they really seem to lose sight. They seem to think the choir is the congregation when it's not, though. And that's where to go into Garth's thing a little bit here. 499 super chat. Garth says, Ward, the Book of Boba Fett is an all-time terrible name for a show. What's worse? And here's the thing about Book of Boba Fett. I think it's a terrible title for the show because they just came up with a title and it has absolutely nothing to do with the show that I can ascertain without having to work my brain off to make it like make sense as a title. But at least it's a title. At least it's just not called Star Wars Boba Fett. I mean, and in my opinion, they probably did that because they knew this would not be the last Boba Fett show to ever exist. Most likely, the character will go on. But then they went with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I guess that one was planned to be a one-off. So I think that must be the logic here. But I like I said, I respect it for having a title. But I am also, I think it's time to retire, characters as the title names. This isn't Marvel. It doesn't pertain. It doesn't.
I mean, I think
the titles don't feel like it.
I think you can have a character name in the title. It just needs a subtitle. Like Ahsoka is just called Ahsoka. Like me and you put like Star Wars Ahsoka on it just because it's better for us with like clicks and like searches.
It's search engine optimization.
Yeah, so I think if you had like just a name and then a subtitle, that would be better. But again, I don't think the title is the problem with selling these shows to a casual audience necessarily.
Yeah,
like Obi-Wan Kenobi, that audience knows exactly what they're looking for. They know exactly who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. So
right
when they open up Disney Plus, they just look for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Meg says they miss so many easy fan service opportunities, but I think that right now we might be running into the fact that fan service doesn't actually do anything. Well, that's if the show's very existence is fan service, and it's if that actually did anything like really truly viable, this show would be kicking Andor's ass.
But fan service is like, it's in the name. It's for fans. It's not bringing in the casual audience and new viewership.
Right.
It's not going to do it. That's just for us. That's just for the things that we enjoy, and that's good for us. We can talk about it. We can have long discussions about it. But to bring in the casual audience, it doesn't matter if the show is too fan service, in its premise and its marketing.
My hot take on that stuff, dude, is like even showing Anakin, people need to remember that while we are in that prequel generation who enjoys it, it's Darth Vader is the universal,
and that's why I said
universally loved. Yeah, and Anakin isn't. Anakin, like you get people like I'm like right at the cusp. People like a year or two older than me are like, well, could care less, would not watch it to see Hayden Christensen again to save their like lives. But then the fans that are on the younger side of it, they're like, yeah, they're all about it. But that doesn't go forever. So it's like, but Darth Vader is the unifying, like,
and this is what we were saying before. They needed in this marketing to treat it differently as they did to the other Mandoverse shows, and just put in a glimpse of Hayden, a glimpse of Vader. We know they've shot stuff with them, so just put in a little something that's recognizable to a casual audience member. Yeah, like, I like Anakin, I like Darth Vader, I'm gonna like check this out. I don't know. I think the marketing is a big part of why this has underperformed. Because
and if they do have like Luke Skywalker in it, him showing up as a surprise, it's not going to surprise anybody anymore. He's shown up a few times now.
Yeah.
He's had minutes worth of like screen time. And so like if Luke Skywalker was in the show and it's not, particularly like about the end of the series or something like that, they would be wise to sell it differently. But all right, your article.
The top paragraph is it?
You said, okay, though Samba have not released their data for Andor's premiere, which debuted with 3 episodes, Ahsoka's 1.2 million is reportedly similar to the Diego Luna-led series. Plum Loco research previously shared that Andor was the lowest performing Star Wars live-action series, bringing in 20 million unique viewers over the course of the entire series. And that series is 12 episodes. Which is also notable. I think there's more episodes to it than all of these other shows. About half of a show is added on compared to like Mandalorian. So with the Book of Boba Fett bringing in 30 million and Obi-Wan Kenobi gathering the highest amount of views with 33 million, which only had 6 episodes too. Additionally, Deadline, in collaboration with Samba TV, are exclusively reporting that the second episode of Ahsoka, which premiered at the same time as the first episode, August 22nd, clocked in with 956,000 views. A notable decline from the series opener, despite a mostly positive response from both critics and fans, with Ahsoka sitting at 86% on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics and with an audience score of 79%. So, yeah. So, I mean, and that right there, I think is fairly normal when you have like a 2-episode premiere, because a portion of the audience isn't going to like it. They're just going to stop. They're like, I don't like this. I don't want to watch it anymore. Another portion of the audience might like it, but you know what? They got something to like do, and they'll go back to it. And they haven't. Yeah, there's
usually a drop off. Like, unless it's something like, I don't know, The Last of Us or Game of Thrones just continue to like pick up viewers over time. Typically on the Disney Plus series, they do seem to drop in their second week, or in this case, the second episode, even though it's the same day. But again, I think it's a notable decline because when we were talking about the difference between Boba Fett and Ahsoka, 1.7 to 1.2, you look at Ahsoka and it's 1.2 to 950, essentially. You've lost a similar amount of viewers, between Boba Fett and Ahsoka than you did with Ahsoka in his second episode.
But the one thing that we can see is that they're not growing Star Wars. It's not growing.
No, it's not growing.
It's not. Yeah, and it's not in a moment of which isn't good. They, I mean, like I would think when you have like this many shows, you would hope that at this point you would be in a moment of growth, and that they're not. They kind of came out strong and then dimmed pretty hard.
It can be seen like, so my friend and podcast co-host Pevy, he's a big Disney boy. He's not just a Star Wars boy, he's a Disney boy, and so he's always going to like the parks. So he goes and frequents it a lot, and over the years he's noticed the decline in like, so he goes to like Disneyland Paris. He used to see like a ton of Rays running around, little Rays, and they got lightsabers and everything, and he said like it was amazing to see, especially to see so many little girls.
I had one.
Yeah. And then he said like in more recent years, like that's gone down significantly. You don't really see people dressed up as Star Wars characters. You might see like some kids running around with little Grogus, but he's like in general it's like gone down a lot. And I'm not talking about Galaxy's Edge, because Galaxy's Edge in itself is not doing as well as it used to do. But if you go to Galaxy's Edge, chances are you're going to see a bunch of Star Wars people, but in general, like Star Wars has stagnated, even though there's things coming out that we all like. And again, we must all remember we're in the Star Wars bubble. They've already got us. We're already on the hook. Even if you don't like a show, you will continue to complain about that show and watch it. Like, everybody who complained about...
You had that dopamine hit in your head at some point, and you're never going to forget that. You're always going to go back for it at some point.
All those people that didn't like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I use that as an example because I always still hear from these sort of people. Like, they didn't like it, and then they always complain about it, and ascertain that like the downfall of Star Wars maybe to it. Like even though, and then because this happened on your show, like I've said before, it's the most commercially successful.
Yeah.
And people in the comments argue, like, no, it's not, because I didn't like it, or all these people I know didn't like it. You know,
Right.
and it's, in reality, like, okay, cool, but you're like on the internet, you're in the Star Wars bubble, you're in the Star Wars fandom, you're gonna hear those opinions, you know. But like it says, about 33 million viewers tuned in for Obi-Wan Kenobi over the length of his run. That's the highest of any other show.
Yeah.
Like, The Mandalorian was looked at as like the savior of Star Wars for a little while, and it didn't get those numbers. You know, like I don't like Boba Fett, like the series. I like the character. I don't like the series, but it had 30 million views. Like,
Yeah.
I can't take away from its success.
Well, and if like I'm kind of like of the opinion that, you know, if you're like really a fan of something coming out that you don't like can't break it for you. Doesn't destroy it. Like when I was younger, loved Weezer, saw Weezer, played in bands within that Weezer scene when I was young and everything like that, did all of that stuff. And those first two Weezer records are really good. Nothing can touch them for me. And the third Weezer record on are complete shit, but it didn't ruin the first two records. But according to Star Wars fans, that can happen. And it's just like, no, that's not really how this works. That's not what happens. And I also listen to every new Weezer record, hoping that they don't suck anymore. And they always suck. They always do. But you know, you still hope that maybe they're gonna like come back and like do what they used to do. You know,
well,
and something as fresh as that. But no, they're not.
Yeah.
But Star Wars has different creators. It's not up to like that same tired writer, that same tired guitar player, and so on like that. New people come in all the time. So there's always a chance that it's going to be reinvigorated, redefined, and it might be in a tomorrow. Today it might be down, you know. Tomorrow it might be a renaissance for the thing. You just can't tell.
Yeah, but you know, it's also like, as I said, I think Star Wars as a whole is stagnated. It's no longer growing. Like obviously, it had massive growth during the sequel trilogy, and you know, it's obviously operating on TV now. It's not operating in cinemas, in the theaters. Like, and then even though, and the things that they have coming out, the first two, like are like from the Hollywood Reporter article, were deemed the safest options.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the Rey movie and it's the Mandoverse crossover event.
Right.
You know, they will know roughly how many viewers they'll get into the cinema for the Mandalorian movie, just based off of the amount of people that tune into all the different shows. And the Rey movie, they kind of have an idea of how that will do. Personally, I don't think either one of those movies cross $1 billion. I think those days for Star Wars, at least for now, are over.
Yeah. I mean, right now for a movie, for the people who don't follow box office at all, for a movie to hit $1 billion, it has to be something that people have been so thirsty for. And like Barbie and Mario are two examples of that. Lifelong people wanted to see a Mario movie and a Barbie movie for their whole lives. And they finally got it. And they were, you know, they were good fan servicey movies, to give fan service some credit. And they did $1 billion. But then you look at like the other movies of the summer, and like even I think Spider-Verse was the best movie of the summer, Spider-Verse 2, and it didn't make $1 billion.
No,
it's
under 700. Yeah, like and then you look at Oppenheimer, which is currently tracking to run up until about 950 million. It's going to get close to $1 billion, and that's just the quality of the movie, the excitement around it, you know. But we're in a position where it's very rare the movies do it. So when they do now, it's significant and substantial. Like last year we had Avatar and Top Gun and Jurassic World Dominion, which was horrible, but it did it somehow.
I think Jurassic World was just about people happy to be back in the movies. That's the only thing I could chalk it up to, because that movie's shit.
But you look at like the returns on the Star Wars sequels anyways, and the diminishing. Like Rise of Skywalker did 1.2 billion, like 1.5 from Rise for Last Jedi, right, and then 1.2 for Rise. So by the time you roll around and do a pseudo sequel to that, because Rey is leading this, it's not going to do $1 billion.
No,
like, you know,
what are you throwing out there right now without there being any filming? Have like 600-700 million?
Yeah, 700, 800 maybe.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
but
I think I would put like 850 million as like that's a great success.
yeah,
That's it,
I'm either like
really.
very good with box office predictions or very bad. Like
Yeah,
Turtles, I predicted dead on. Indiana Jones, I got dead wrong. So
yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
didn't have it
in
as
Indiana
high as
Jones
you
and
did, but
Flash, I
yeah.
mean, like who would have thought those would have done that poorly? Like
hmm
that's
If you had
amazingly
told
bad.
me that there's a chance that the Meg 2 does more than Indiana Jones, I would have laughed at you.
That's the world is upside down.
Yeah.
Okay. But Garth gave another 49 super chat. Thank you, Garth. Said, Ward, I'm just waiting on that Ryan Johnson trilogy. That's the meat and potatoes for a future Star Wars. I don't know if Garth is trolling me with that one, but for 4.99, I'll take it. I actually the truth is to go back to my Disney Vault Fire example, if there was only, if there was a fire in the Disney Vault, I would probably grab Rogue One and The Last Jedi, and I would run out and be like, see you to the rest of them.
Mm.
Those are the of the that phase one film, I guess we'll call it that, to use the Marvel analogy or whatever. Is those are the only ones that to me were actually like good original content.
Mm.
Force Awakens, honorable mention, but also it's a fucking remake.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a
Yeah.
reboot, soft reboot, whatever you want to call it. But right, yeah. I mean, that's that's where I don't like what they're doing with the next slate of films. Which the next slate of films to me says we don't know what we're doing, so we're gonna make a little sampler and hoping that you guys really fucking like one of these samples, and then we'll go from there.
Well, yeah, they
And
changed course
sweet
on the theatrical stuff like a bunch. Like originally it was going to
yeah,
be setting up
Rogue.
a wife, you know,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they were gonna do like a series of movies. Then that obviously
Mm-hmm.
didn't happen. Then they changed it to like um they were just gonna do standalones, and if they're successful, spin them off. Well,
Yeah,
it was
and we know that Kenobi was going to be a trilogy had it
yeah,
connected, and based off of the Disney Plus numbers, I believe it would have.
yeah. It already done well. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, and that's where we are. Like now they've changed course again, and it's just like, well, we're doing all these individual movies, and if the Ray one does well, we'll do a sequel. If or wherever, like, and it's in a weird space. Like they, but again, like the most interesting one is definitely the Mangold one. Because it's
Yeah,
new, it's fresh,
and
and
it's the one that you believe won't happen.
it's the one I think out of the three won't happen. Yeah, and but the thing is with it is like they're going in with what they believe is the safest two options first.
Yeah,
Okay, we put those out. Okay, if they do well, then we can introduce this because people are excited about Star Wars again.
that's
The
the
Mangold one.
I think that's like the financial justification
Yeah.
is that they believe the first two will give the returns, which allows them that experimental one, which would be the Mangold film. But in
hmm
reality, I think that they should be starting back at the Mangold with the Mangold film and growing it from there. But
Yeah, I would have
uh
liked to see like a series of like a films based in a new time and a new era. I think that's something Star Wars could do with because
mhm,
they made a big deal about it being the end of the Skywalker saga in
yeah.
after Tross, and
Mhm,
but like you're picking up with the lead character of that movie, not that like long later. In reality, when that movie comes out, it's only been like what 8 years at that
mhm,
point, 7 years. So
yeah.
it's not that far away, and yeah, like but then you're doing it without the original trilogy cast. You are just like letting it solely like lay on the shoulders of Ray and maybe Finn and whoever else. But
But they're also telling us like wait until 2029 to get anything that's sort of different.
he,
That's kind of a bummer.
well, they're saying Mango's 27. Like I don't know if
Okay,
that you know.
yeah, yeah, and I was saying I yesterday on the show, um, I don't I know you, without saying too much about your own shit. I don't want to get in your
Yeah,
business, but I my sources don't believe those dates anymore. They don't believe them at all.
yeah,
They laughed. They like fucking straight up laughed
yeah. I think
at
it's
the
too early to
idea.
say what happens to them. Like I
Mhm.
think once these strikes are over, then we'll have a maybe clearer picture going forward.
I think it
Um,
depends on your optimism on those strikes.
oh, yeah, I
And
like I don't think it'll be anytime soon. Um,
mhm.
but I think that you gotta look at it like, Stephen Knight was supposed to write he's supposed to do the first draft of his Star Wars movie by mid-May. The Writers Guild went on strike at the start of May. He didn't turn in that draft, from what we can tell.
Yeah,
so
we never got any confirmation that he did.
Yeah,
he probably turned in what he had, most likely.
Probably turned in what he had. Yeah, but
yeah, and because he also had to submit that to the writers to the WGA to be like, here's where I was at, to prove he's not writing right now.
But there's a good chance he didn't complete the first draft.
I would say so, yeah.
Because he came on, they gave him 3 months to write a first draft. He didn't have
unless he came on before we thought. That's the only other angle to it, which I don't think happened.
No, but so he has that period of time, and it's probably not a lot. And then, he gets into next year. I don't know, if this ends, say, in December, he goes into it next year.
Yeah.
That movie, from what I've heard, because it's in 2026, they think they have time, but they are going to have to delay that. I'm not even saying delay the release date, but delay their plans in terms of production. They wanted to start filming in April.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. That is never happening.
Well, here's the other thing to remember. Look back at the past productions. See, Lucasfilm thinks one thing and then another thing happens. They said, oh, we can do The Force Awakens in this time frame. It was supposed to be a May film, and it was a December film, and that's happened. That happened to most of them at some point.
But they did that with this, though, right?
And Maria, that is not accurate. Lindelof submitted a rough draft. It's not a treatment. A treatment's 30 pages. It's
he would have done a treatment way earlier on.
He was writing that script for over a year, and they over 2 years development and script writing, and and what's his name is likely, Knight is likely doing the second draft of that script. We don't have any indication that he just threw it behind his back. I mean, we've heard that Rey was old in his, and that she's not old now.
She also had 2 students in the Lindelof,
and they changed the age of those characters. They were older in Lindelof's, and now they're younger, which supposedly pushed out some actors. Right? That's the story. If I'm remembering right. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
No, it's fine. It's Kathy has said that movie was worked on for 2 years.
Yeah.
We only knew the Lindelof came on board in the spring of last year, and then he was going spring of this year. Yeah. So, if they committed to his thing, he would have submitted a treatment and his ideas and wherever else. And, that's why, and they believed in it. That's why they committed such a large amount of time and resources to it. If you remember, last year, all the buzz was how excited and confident they are in him and going forward, know. But we've got to remember as well with the you were talking about delays in terms of release.
Right.
Initially, the Rey movie was December 2025. Hell or High Water, that movie had to come out then.
That's what they were saying. That was the rules.
Strikes happened, and then we get that updated slate from Disney early on in the summer, where they're this it's May and December 2026.
Right.
So they've delayed it 5 months. Will they delay them again? Yeah, maybe. Because they're putting it the same month that they're supposed to put out a Marvel movie. That's silly.
And that's what, in the conversations that I've had, is they're the thing that people need to realize is, and this is where I use that dominoes analogy. When a domino falls, doesn't make its release date over at Warner Brothers, that's going to then push. I'm going to just use Doom 3 is now going to come out the same day as a Star Wars movie. If they want that date, everything's going to get shuffled around again. And then that's the big excuse to push everything back further.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how this is what is going to happen. And if we don't act like that's what's going to happen, then we're just going to be disappointed, because that's what's going to happen. I'm
not saying this is the case for Disney, but there's definitely some studios that are using the writer strike and the actor strike as an excuse to delay their movies. Granted, a lot of movies are being delayed because of it, but some of them are using it as an excuse. And this is the same thing with COVID. They use COVID as an excuse to delay films. Yeah.
They're using it as an excuse to cancel shows. It's
Well,
it's a it's a it's a
for
get out of
example,
jail free card for a lot of things.
for example, like Paramount, like last year used COVID as an excuse to delay Mission Impossible at one point, but they had Top Gun coming out in that same summer.
Yeah.
So you had to delay Mission Impossible due to COVID, but you could let Top Gun Maverick come out, and it did well. Like it did really well. So
yeah.
But
Mission Impossible is a huge failure that will never recover. The franchise will never be the same. It's fucked. Tom Cruise sucks. Mission Impossible is not a good movie, and anybody on the panel disagrees, they could speak up. Okay, Rob, nothing from Rob. Rob agrees. The end. Sorry, go on.
But yeah, so we're in a position now where like
fuck you, Rob.
They have done a delay on it, and you know that probably was taken into consideration the writer's strike.
Yeah.
But we're probably going to get another like slate at some point. I think they'll hold on to these dates for as long as they can. But I think like a bunch of the Marvel ones are going to move on the next updated slate we get. And yeah, I don't know. I think the movies will happen. I don't know about the Mangold. I think the other two will. So yeah, I don't know. But in terms of like we've gone like majorly off track with this, like considering we were supposed to be talking about the Ahsoka numbers.
Well, I'm
like,
going to bring it back. And
yeah.
here was kind of like the question or the point that I was going to make about this show is a lot of these the thing that a big IP like Star Wars has that something that's just a one and done doesn't have is that all of this stuff is an investment that could grow over time, that could make you money at times when you thought it was over, when it shouldn't have, when it's like so what I'm trying to say is when Dave Filoni's Star Wars movie goes into production and people start to get really excited about it, they're likely going to watch the show over and over again in anticipation for it. And that will give Disney some more return on this show. I think it has more return than just this.
Maybe.
What do you think?
Yeah, but at the same time, who's going to see the Mando movie? It's not the casual audience members, probably. It's probably us. Like, it's people who already, like, they've sold us on everything. They don't need to... Like, I tried not to watch, like, trailers for Indiana Jones. I'm going to go see that anyway. Like, I didn't really need to watch the trailers over and over again and all the new TV spots. Like, they had me. Like, with stuff I know they already... Like, Dune, I haven't really watched those trailers, and I love the first movie. Like, the Denis did, not... You know, the one from the 80s. But, the Lynch did. But, so I'm not watching trailers for that, because I'm like, I already love the first movie, I love the universe, I'm going to go and see it no matter what. Like, so, they don't need to sell me on that movie. They need to sell everybody else. And it's the same thing with the Mandoverse stuff. Like, if you're going to do this Mandalorian movie, which they are, like, yeah, you've got guaranteed people in seats based off of the numbers of people who tune into the Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Boba Fett week on, week out. But, like, you know, what about the casual viewer? Because Ahsoka is inside baseball. Like, we're following up a animated series from almost 10 years ago. Like, when it started.
This is the mainstreamification of Ahsoka right now, and it's either going to happen or it doesn't.
Yeah, and then so you're asking those like people to go and see the movie, and they will. But then when you're trying to get the casual audience members in, they're like, okay, I've got to go and see this movie. Okay, but I've never seen The Mandalorian, never seen Ahsoka, never seen Boba Fett. I actually don't know what's going on. And it's a lot of homework to do beforehand. Rob mentioned, like, the Marvel stuff. Like, the Marvel stuff didn't start off like this. You know, it was one movie a year, then a couple movies a year, and then we got to this point. And now Marvel are in a point where, like, the quality of product has dropped off massively. Because they're putting out so many films, so many series. They're not getting good enough writers on board. You know, that's why you've seen all these new movies they've got coming out. They've now hired experienced writers to come and rewrite them, and the drop off is big. But you know, Marvel fans have learned over the course of however many years it's been since Iron Man to like keep up with everything because everything's connected. With Star Wars, that's a more recent thing, and Star Wars fans are committed to doing it. Like, no matter what, they are, of course. You know, but you know, we've seen how inside baseball Ahsoka is, and the viewership isn't there. It's probably the strong Star Wars fans that are watching it, just like they did with Andor. You know, it's probably the hardcore Star Wars fans that are subscribed to Disney Plus that are watching both of those shows. You know, and they'll always consume Star Wars. They're probably the same people who consumed Rebels. Of course they are. But
of course.
But If this was like a Marvel thing, it'd be
because
like,
to watch Rebels, you had to work your ass off. It was hard to see it. It was on Disney XD, a channel a lot of people didn't have. And then if you didn't have it, you had to get like the fucking Disney XD app or something. And it was just like a whole thing. It was not convenient to watch Star Wars Rebels when it came out.
because as well, you're not asking people to watch like, okay, you're going to go watch an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series, but this is Obi-Wan Kenobi animated series that you didn't watch, like, which you need to know beforehand, and we're going to reference that all the time. Like, that's not what happened with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series, you saw that movie, if you saw Revenge of the Sith, you're good. You know, like
and like my example is my drummer. He was like, he watched it and he's like, it's a little bit boring. And then I was like, we're talking about the moments where like it dragged and stuff, and he just didn't know that Sabine being a Padawan was a big deal.
Yeah, but you get these people then to see a Mando movie, and they're like, okay, but I need to watch Mandalorian, and I need to watch Boba Fett and Ahsoka.
Yeah,
like, and then when you get into that, it's the deeper thing of Ahsoka has all this other baggage. You know, like, it's a lot of work to do. Whereas the Marvel movies, like, you're selling people on, here's a Spider-Man movie. Like, I know who Spider-Man is, I know his origin is, I know all of that. Like, you know, you can just go and watch a Spider-Man movie. But also, it's the movies that are all connected. You know? Like, before we got to the Disney Plus series, was only started 2 years ago for Marvel. You know, they came out a while after the Star Wars stuff did. You know, you ask people to keep up with movies that come out like once every 3 months. Like, it's a 1-2 hour movie every 3 months. That's easy to do. Like,
yeah,
you know, and again, you're not asking people to say, hey, you want to go and watch this? Because the Marvel films that go to cinemas are like bigger name characters. You know?
yeah.
You're not asking somebody to go and watch, I don't know, like Gwenpool, right? But like,
Yeah.
before you watch Gwenpool, you need to watch this animated show from 10 years ago, like, to understand it. Like, like, how are you going to sell people on that? You know?
Yeah, that's where with this Ahsoka series, how it plays into the new film is seems to be massive. Seems to be.
It should be, yeah.
If like that report that I had is accurate, then it's like this sort of sets up like that movie. Now, is it easy just to sell like, oh, like, look, there's new bad guys coming and they're going to invade the Republic, and like, you know, there's a whole new threat and there's this reunified empire and stuff like that. I think that it, like, there is a way of selling that successfully based off of how they've sold stuff for the last couple of years. I don't know if I have faith in them doing it right,
exactly.
but it could be done. Like, they could do it. And then if they do sell that correctly, this stuff ends up, it ends up, you know, rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. It might actually help some of these shows and grow the brand. But they need to just accept the fact that they need to start something and grow it. Don't just they just want to come out and have a big hit every time. Grow your stuff. Like Andor, for instance. That would have been a good thing to grow. Now, I don't know. I don't think they will. They're not going to. But that would have been something that where you start from this place. You're like, oh, what is it? It's really good quality, and then you build out from there. But they don't want to do it. They don't want to try anything hard. Like Spider-Verse 1, great movie, and then they managed to like get that movie out to people. People got it who didn't see it in the theater. They managed to make it accessible.
It won an Academy Award, which
which obviously helps it. And then the part 2 comes out though, and like, it does really, really, really well comparatively speaking. So,
the third one's probably going to do even better. Like,
I think that the third one could be $1 billion movie. It should be, because the first 2 are really good. And like, but they don't want to, and that's where, like, to go back to Garth's question, like the Rian Johnson trilogy, that's where you like do it. When it comes to the films, the films were, oh no, I talked crap on Mission Impossible, so Rob did show up. But what I'm trying to say is that I forgot what I was going to say because I know Rob is going to come here and he's just going to go off. He's going to lose it. Rob, are you going to lose it?
Lose what? What? Because it didn't make money. It made money. It made 550 million, but it didn't do. It probably should have done 200-300 million more. But what can you do, man?
I mean, you saw it 8 times. You saw it 8 times. You did your part.
Hey, man, I did my part. Dude. Look, it's not a loss. It's just, I told you before,
Mhm.
you know, it was hard to catch the attention. Like, one, I'll critique the film before I get to marketing.
Mhm.
I told you, I just don't think
Wait,
Esai
Mission
Morales
Impossible?
was Mission Impossible. I don't think Esai Morales was a draw as a villain. In you know, and I think that he's a fine actor, but they should have had a Keanu Reeves, even Sylvester Stallone, someone from the 90s that you want to see like in a kayfabe stunt marketing way to see fight an old Tom Cruise. You know what I mean? Maybe Brad Pitt, because there's that vampire reference. Something in there.
Antonio Banderas could show up, lick his face.
I don't know Banderas, man, but like,
well, he was Armand, the vampire Armand. He stole Tom Cruise's boyfriend in that movie. Think about it.
I personally think a way to do it to get someone from the 90s that also the kids would know that would have been crazy would have been Ralph Macchio. People think I'm nuts. No, Ralph Macchio. Yeah,
I say Van Damme
because he doesn't age. So, but look, all that being said, I also think the thing with Mission Impossible is they're big on the stunt, and they showed that bike stunt way too early. It was like 3 months. They should have been like 3 weeks before the movie, because they show that stunt, and then like you're like, okay, the movie came out, right? It's out, and it's like, no, man, we got like 3 months to go. There was, you know, it was like, how do you compete with that? And then you get lumped in. Look, Ahsoka suffers this problem right now. This is a very similar problem to Mission Impossible, in my opinion. You come off the heels of 3 lackluster big releases, right? Like Mission Impossible comes out right after. Transformers doesn't hit a mark. Doesn't do bad, but doesn't hit a mark. Flash does not do what everyone was hoping it would do. That's a big whiff, right? Just in terms of it was supposed to be the greatest superhero ever made.
I like it. I watched it yesterday. Right. It's a good superhero movie, but
they were expecting Avengers money or Spider-Man money, and you know they got Shazam money.
They got Zaslav money, yeah.
Yeah, essentially a Zaslav. I like that Zaslav money. That's and then Indiana money. Jones, which just again this was just like a bunch of like, and then the other thing is TikTok, man. Like you just can't look. I told you on the show, I'm not good at predicting money, right? What's going to make money? I'm not good at that, but I do when things come across my desk. It's because it's hit some kind of zeitgeist.
Wait, you have a desk?
Yeah, but I'm chained to this desk like Jacob Marley's chained to.
You got a mailroom? A mailroom in there?
Yeah, I do, man. So
you have a little hat that says editor in chief, and on the side it says scoop.
Yeah, I know. When it comes across like what I'm looking at, it's hit some kind of thing. And TikTok wasn't talking about Mission Impossible. It's not talking about Ahsoka. It's talking about Barbie. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like I told you on the show, I'm like, that could be Warner Brothers saving grace this year. You know, I mean, I specifically said that on the show. That
Barbie?
Could be their biggest hit. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, just
Barbie's
by the
only thing that makes David Zaslav not seem like he's just a fucking idiot. Like he is
apparently the highest grossing movie of all time, Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and I suggest that you will see a giant shift in marketing for the Marvels based off Barbie, right? Like they're gonna try to write that way for that movie.
Rob, like, you're right in that they should. They are not. They don't have the ability to respond to anything.
They should.
Disney is like once that truck gets a little bit of momentum, they don't know how to pump the brakes and change and turn the wheel. They don't know how.
And then lastly, this is something I fundamentally disagree with Christopher McQuarrie on. So like I've heard him talk about it.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
As an artist, you're gonna is he learning the lesson? It made 550. Could it made $1 billion? I think so. Here's the thing he mistook. They found a look and tone with Fallout that I feel is like I haven't seen the next step from The Dark Knight since The Dark Knight until I saw Fallout. Fallout had a look that felt like The Dark Knight, but didn't feel like The Dark. It felt like a cross between the 1960s, which the Mission Impossible series is from, with a modern edge, but it wasn't like depressing. It just had like an edge to it, and it had its cinematography. I think that Rob Hardy's the guy who did that. And Macquarie, all of a sudden, he never said this before. He came out with this movie because he knew. This is his excuse. He goes, I don't want every we used to have a director every film. Now I want every film to have a different tone and a feel. I don't want to make the same movie twice. And I'm like, look, visually and tonally, there's not a giant difference between Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation. And he worked on, he didn't direct Ghost Protocol, but he worked on it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a giant difference between that. So, like, if you found a thing everyone loved the feel of Fallout, if you found that look and tone, and you got the same characters essentially, right? White Widow, all these people, keep the tone for 3 films. Give yourself 3 films to use that tone, and then create a new Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise, or he's like a mentor role with young kids, and then move to the lighter, brighter thing. But you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna have an actor who's aging out, go down there with some edge, because that you need that. It was just working for people. When you find yourself a niche, ride it for a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, you could always just kill his son in Vietnam. That's what you could do if you have an old actor.
Right.
No,
but
no, don't do that.
Hey, man, I think that should have been a time travel movie, not something time travel happens at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
like that's an archaeologist who can time travel is the draw, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be Indiana Jones if they went full in.
We keep saying what is the problem and isn't Indiana. We keep saying what is and isn't Indiana Jones, but people felt this wasn't Indiana Jones. So you may as well said,
I don't think so.
Traveling
I disagree with
time
that.
Travels is an archaeologist would want to time travel. Like that's
you're not wrong. But I also don't think that was a dominant dominant discourse around the movie. I don't think the dominant discourse was even that negative
from even like screenwriting professionals. You know what I mean? I had friends calling me about this one, like. So
we always know he's lying.
I wish I could. I don't like to drop names, dude, so I'm not dropping names because it puts them on the spot. But I'm not making it up. All right. If I just heard it on the internet, I would say
Chris Breezy. It was Chris
Breezy. Nah, he has questionable memes. I don't know.
Garth Knight says, "Am I the only one completely underwhelmed by Kylo? Adam Driver nailed the role he was given, but frankly, I was embarrassed for him many times in the sequel trilogy."
Well, I mean, that's like all the characters had their embarrassing. I mean, I was embarrassed for Luke Skywalker in Rise of Skywalker when he's like got that shit-eating laugh and he's lifting the X-wing out them. That's just the characters. Adam Driver is the guy who's doing the best acting in those films. I mean, he's carrying those movies in a lot of ways. So
no, 100%. He is totally with if that guy was and Garth I think is saying that because he was like he nailed the role. The problem I think what they're trying to rectify, but also it didn't go the way that they initially intended, was it was okay to overcast those movies because there was the hope that there would be all these Star Wars films spiraling out of control, that it was just exponential growth based off of those movies, but they weren't able to react. So you end up having like characters that are just massively underutilized. I mean, Poe Dameron's another one who is completely like Oscar Isaac could bring a great performance to Star Wars, and if he had, but he was a fun character. But
I like Daisy Ridley. I mean, I particularly really enjoy her in the beginning of The Force Awakens. And throughout much of the film, I mean, she's incredibly likable. You just got to give her something to do other than whether am I somebody or nobody, because that's not 3 movies. That's just not. I'm just telling you, it's not a 3-movie arc.
The
movie arc.
The second movie fucking ended it at the end. She's like, "No, I'm good." At the end, she like accepts like she's gonna She goes, "Bye." She goes, "I'm gonna go do my own thing." And then J.J. Abrams is like, "Well,
it's the old lady showing up at the end." I was like, "Is that the fucking broad who was selling Annie fruit? Like she's still going?"
Jira, air conditioned Jira.
Out of nowhere, hey, how you doing? You're like, what are we doing?
The air conditioning has the key to immortality. But so I would be like, it's one of those fucking things where I'm okay with them bringing back Ben Solo in some way, doing some weird romantic story if they wanted to, but they also can't wait until the dude's 57 to do it. That's the other side of that.
Yeah,
like in my opinion,
forever, man.
while he resembles a Ben Solo, it's the time to like do that. And you know, I mean, he's got to be, what is he? Is it 40s now? Is he in his 40s? I would imagine so. Yeah, I mean, he's a good looking guy, so you know they'll have longevity with it, but not they don't have forever. And then Garth gave another $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Garth. You're very generous today. I appreciate it, man. Am I the only one?
I wanted Kira to say picking up or dropping off, because you know, like because there's bodies in that ground, bodies and lights. Oh, there's shit buried on that farm, man.
He says, I feel like Rob wants Tom Cruise in the Star Wars, and I will agree as long as we get a CGI Swayze and Ryan Johnson's trilogy.
Well, he would make a good Imperial. I think Thrawn. I mean, look, if you go watch Valkyrie, look, if Macquarie, the only way that works is if Macquarie does it. But I'm telling you right now, I want Christopher McQuarrie in Star Wars.
Yeah,
Mission Impossible is fucking solid. Matter of fact, the tone of Dead Reckoning really feels like Spielberg from '89.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what it feels like to me, you know. But if you saw Fallout and wanted more, that ain't the film, you know. And it could use maybe 20-30 minutes trimmed. It doesn't need to be that long, you know. But whatever.
Maria says he's 30
I'm not a guy who's going to complain when I get more. Like Spider-Verse is like 3 movies, you know, like. But I'm not complaining because I'm enjoying it. So who cares?
Right. Like, Spence is having some fun delusions, maybe. Wait, my chat's lagging up. Sorry about that. It's like this app goes. Spence says KK holds Filoni by the balls, unless she is gone and everyone she hired is gone with her.
Oh my gosh!
I don't trust anything released to be faithful to anything but Kathleen Kennedy.
I give my supreme allegiance to the ball grabber. You know what I'm saying? Like
I mean, it's literally in your contract that you will stay in that position as long as you get your balls grabbed.
Yeah, she gotta get me like by the Muppets. Know what I'm saying? She gotta hand down
by the Grovers.
Talk. Yeah,
yeah. By the felt spheres.
By the ball. Spence is like he's the captain you and I have to go see when we fuck up on the job, right?
And then Spence, after that grand slam, comes back, points towards the stands, and does it again. Says, "I don't know. The AI rewrite of the new trilogy was pretty good."
It wasn't any worse. How about that? Right? Couldn't be any worse.
No, I was actually laughing over the weekend. They re-released Jurassic Park in 3D, and I took my daughter to like see it.
Good conversion.
It was pretty good. It was actually like seeing a new movie, because I've seen it so many times that seeing it in 3D like made the pictures different. So my brain had to like
Titanic in 3D.
No, I haven't. I still haven't seen that one.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll probably take Penny when it comes back around. But point being is, as I was watching that movie, I was laughing because Kathleen Kennedy produced it. There's a point when like the owner of Jurassic Park, the old guy, he's like, I should be going out there, and she's like, I'm a woman, I can do it. And she's like, don't make me give you like a lecture on feminism. And I was just imagining if that movie came out today, about how they would be like this movie's woke. It's the woke mind virus. That's you know.
But these are the same guys that bitch about woke mind virus. Tell me Batman Returns is the best fucking Batman movie, and I'm like, how dare you? I'm a woman. Remember that one? And then Batman goes, I'm sorry. I don't mind her using that technique in the movie. What pissed me off as a kid was Batman going, I'm sorry. I'm like, why would Batman? She's a fucking thief. Kick her in the face, Batman.
Like, take her down, Batman.
Yeah. So I know, right? People forget. Look, we had to sit through. I don't know about you, man. My uncles were fucking. I mean, that's when I realized how much of an asshole my uncles actually were. When G.I. Jane came out, they were like, that was their. I can't believe it. Women in the military. I'm like, I grew up with Ripley, so I'm like, women in the military. Like, I don't understand.
Remember when we were kids, Sinead O'Connor shaving her head as well as G.I. Jane had those people just flipping the fuck out. It was like, who gives a shit, you know? But they had a really, really hard time with that. that kind of stuff, you know. And so when you really get down to it, it's the same. Nothing's actually changed. It's the same grift. It's the same exact.
No, they just
grift.
they have the internet. That what's changed is the internet has algorithmized. What do you call that?
Let the algorithm move you. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Sorry, so you fucking bastard. Sorry, it's fun, Lionel Richie. Anyway, it just spreads that shit like wildfire for loot. Unlike spreading Bespin's news, right? Bespin's news gets spread. He just, he just not his videos. Their videos get shared. His info gets shared.
Right.
You know? We need an NFT. His info. Every time you see it, he gets like, 10 pence. What do you get? They got pence out. They got Mike Pence's out there. Right?
10 pence is better than 1 pence a read. So I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, tonight Ahsoka comes out, right? Tonight's the night. So you gonna be able to come back on tonight, Rob?
Yeah, I was just up till 3 a.m. Man. I thought we were doing at 11, so I woke up at 10:50.
Sorry,
and I got
remember
up
what time we started
an hour earlier.
Oh, yeah. I can remember what time
we started at 11 my time, 10 your time. You just did it an hour early.
Okay.
I won't be up so late tonight. I had to push to get something out. So
yeah. It was poop.
man, I eat plenty of soluble fiber. I'm good to go.
Tonight's episode is short. I have a class until 6 tonight, my time. I'm coming right home and watching it, and then I'll schedule the show for after that. So I think we'll probably be, I'd say probably like 8 Pacific Standard Time. We'll do our Ahsoka series 8 o'clock.
I was just gonna say. You're a natural phenomenon.
So if you guys watch the show tonight and you guys want to come hang out tonight with us and talk about the third show,
is Bob Iger going to lecture us after the show? Does he just come on and just tell us everyone how they actually gave him a really good deal and they should take it, and we're all stupid? We're stupid faces.
Lego fan says, "Did you see the Reddit leak for Ahsoka? Are you talking about the like that they posted the video on Twitter for the next thing, or it claims C-3PO is in episode 7, Anakin in episode 5, 7, and 8. Huh, interesting. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Just another new account. You know what I mean? Like, if we know who those people are, constantly post those things. Or was it from?
Yeah. Do you think it's the same old suspects?
Yeah. Like if it says the new account thing, then yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like the Anakin thing, like it could be a more like I told you I know a little bit more about the Anakin thing.
Yes.
But I don't know if it's actually in it. But yeah, but the C-3PO stuff, like why would he need to be in episode 7? Like at that point that firmly in the place where Thrawn and Ezra are located, and you'd assume that's going to be mostly focused on that conflict and those situations and not going back to the New Republic.
Well, that's the one thing I would say that goes against it for me. Now, I'm not debunking it because I don't know. I haven't read this report. I don't know anything about this report other than what Lego fan just told me in the chat. Now, if Lego fan just came up to me on the street and said, "What do I think?" I would say, based off of what I know of 6, 7, and 8, that doesn't seem very likely. And the only place that would be likely for me would be episode 8 when they return home.
I also don't think you need Anakin in 3 episodes.
But
5, 7, and 8 is what they said, right?
Yeah, well, the series is called Anakin, right? So.
Oh, Rob, I know somebody referred to this show as a bait and switch. They refer to it as the Sabine show.
Well, let me. I'm gonna message you so that way you could say no, and I'm gonna ask you if you want to mention this shot that you could say no. Okay.
Oh, if you're asking me with a shot, I already know. Like, no.
Don't mention it.
No.
Okay. Then. So, anyways, but my point is like a couple of those moments. It would not be impossible just to throw that into any of these episodes. Even the first, it could have been in the first episode even. So some of that stuff is completely you know. And then with what we know was filmed, it's like, fuck, there's enough that they could pepper it through the whole thing if they wanted to. But also
that thing that
they can't be dynamic with it though, because I don't think Filoni could change anything now from what he had.
Right? No, you can't. Like, so if Ray Stevenson's character does not die in this, they cannot rewrite it that he dies.
Right.
Like, even though, you know, the real world, he's no longer with us. Like, and they might want to change that story. They can't. So, and with the Anakin thing, like, the shot I told you about, I think that's just like a it's hard to explain, but it's just, you don't need that in multiple episodes. That will just be one. Like, that would just be a singular moment for Anakin, you know, like, and specifically for Anakin. It wouldn't be for Ahsoka, you know, and you don't need that. Like, just him scattered around 3 episodes. Like, the one, like I said, the one thing I heard for the 5th episode was he talks to her through the world between worlds or wherever, like, and it's like about her accepting the past and stuff. So, like, that makes sense.
Look, man, if they literally had a show called Anakin, people would all be complaining, but when's Ewan coming back? When's Ewan? Where's Palpatine? Where's Mace?
No, it'd be, where's Padme in it?
Is
Padme in it?
You know? Padme in it? Is Padme, if she's not in it, it's not an Anakin series. And then when they're in it, it's a bait and switch. Anakin's not in it. All these other characters are in the show.
Have you got this, like,
Star Wars fans? Like,
have you, like, pulled it up?
What's that?
Have you pulled that leak up?
Oh, I can.
Yeah, you can just pull it up and, like, just look at what it comes from. That, like, might be helpful to us.
Oh, wait, you're talking about the Reddit one?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me see if I could
because if it's just in that, like, wild rumors, like, section again, like, you know, then it's probably nothing to, like, be concerned about or like spend a lot of time on. Because usually, like I said, those usual suspects are posting in there about bullshit.
Right.
I know who Merrick is.
You know who Merrick is?
Helmet off. It's gonna be him in a hat.
How
you doing? I'm in the show. I'm Merrick. Yeah. I got spinny blade. Everyone fears me. Kathy's got me by the balls.
Yeah.
Got me by the balls.
Kathy Kennedy's got him by the balls. Yeah, it's kind of funny when that discourse goes around. I'm not picking on you for thinking that, because I know a lot of people have sold that, but that's not really how it works there. You know, it's just, that's like wrestling. That's not how it really happens at that place. Kathy Kennedy's the boss, but it's also like, she's not a creative. You have to believe that she's a creative and that it's a vanity project.
The Lego she's doing guy in the chat is saying, like, they had stuff right about episode 3.
Oh, okay.
Again, you could have just taken a guess at episode 3, though.
Okay, so
like, you really could
expect Balin and Ahsoka will clash, and there will be a meeting of minds and a disagreement.
If somebody's just like,
but I don't want to go and shit on this person because I don't know if they're right, so I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, I know. Like, if it is, like, somebody can take a guess at, like, episode 3. Like, me and you, like, after we saw the 2nd episode, we were like, oh, well, there probably is Mon Mothma's in the 3rd one. Hera's going to tell them about what's happening.
Well, like, and we knew Mon Mothma was going to be in that one because of the fucking Getty images. Remember the photo credit?
Oh yeah. So, you know,
so I think this is what is being talked about right now. I don't know if it's popping up on the screen or not. It's like 100 degrees out here already, so my computer's starting to slow down. But I'll read it. The user somebody named Global Sorbet says 15 hours ago, there was a user on this sub who claimed to be working on the show and were leaking a few things, including the 3rd episode will be about Ahsoka and Sabine flying on a ship and getting shot down by Morgan. The 5th episode was the best episode. Anakin appears in 5, 7, and 8. In episode 7, there's a hologram of him. In episode 8, he's a Force ghost and smiles waves. Ahsoka has some sort of death near-death experience at the end of 4, and that it's ambiguous. The user replied, "TBF, you're very close," to another user speculating about an underwater coordinator with Ahsoka having some sort of drowning experience. C-3PO appears in episode 7. No mention of Luke or Zeb. Is that the thing that was being talked about?
Exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. So there we go. I mean, that would. So yeah, maybe that's all on. We'll have to we'll know like really soon.
Well, then they'll be happy, right? They'll be greatest series ever if they get Anakin in their series. I mean, that's what made the Obi-Wan series the best one, right? Anakin was in it, like saved everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, some of that stuff lines up though. Some of it does actually line up. So it very well might be legit, you know.
Yeah. Well, then we're gonna have to. Here's my whole thing with it, man. Let's say it's legit. Then you and I are going to have to sit here for fuck knows how long with everyone going, "How dare Anakin show himself to Ahsoka, but not his own son who saved him? Why don't they hanging out all the time? We want the Anakin and Luke show." Like, you know, like it's just going to be nonstop that stuff. Like,
yeah. Well, I don't really care about giving a voice to the stupidest people in the fandom. But
it's gonna happen. It's just I know,
and I do it too sometimes. I focus on them too sometimes. But what I'm trying to say is like my whole thing is if you have Anakin Skywalker in it, or they do have him in it, but I hope it's significant. I hope it's not like, this is getting boring. Anakin come out.
Yeah, imagine at the end of Creed 3 when Creed's in the ring and he wins. He looks over and the ghost of Rocky and Mickey and you know what I mean, Apollo are all in the ring giving him
the robot
appears, you know, but Polly's still alive. I don't know why the robot died, but Polly's still alive.
Oh, the robot.
Polly can't die, but the robot died.
Yeah.
Like
robot's gone, dude.
It's a problem, man, with Force stuff. The thing I love about Thrawn, man, and those Thrawn books, Zahn, right? Is Zahn was like, yeah, Obi-Wan moved on. Like, thank you. You know, like, we move on.
Jediah, where did that come out? If that's can you give me a link to the source of that if you have it? He says Disney just released the first episode of Ahsoka drew 14 million views according to Disney. And I think it's because they did an edit, and this is now the opening of the show.
This show's got butts. This show's got butts. This show's got butts. So good on the show. So good on the show.
That you guys, it has that one video, but 14 million views after that.
If they put out that it like got 14 million viewers, why haven't they done it for every other show? You know what I mean?
Maybe this time they were actually waiting for the Samba cycle to hit. Maybe they were actually
that happened every like other show. I'm not
and it happened. And once again, they're slow to respond to anything. So maybe this time they were ready for it, and then they decided to.
But the thing is, like 14 million viewers is obviously.
But this helps us, Bespin, because if we know that whatever that what did they say the number was for the show? 1.4 million for Samba.
1.2.
Well, that 1.2 million that equals 14 million. We at least have a metric to work with the Samba stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can do a little tiny mathematical formula if that's accurate. I haven't seen
1.2 equals 14 million.
So yeah, we could just say 1.4. When you get down to it, 1.4 equals 14 million. You know, if you want to just make it simple for yourself.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
It's like American math. I'm like, can we just use meters and kilometers? I fucking hate our way we measure shit.
But yeah, it's like so I don't know. I just think it's weird that they've chosen to do that. And again, they must be really wanting to spin a positive and like how successful the show's been.
Yeah.
Because if it's done worse than Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and Mando. But at the same time, like, why didn't you do this for Andor? Like, when people were saying Andor was the worst performance show, like, why didn't you just put out a positive for it.
Could the strike have
Well,
something to
maybe
do with
this is
with
because
it?
they
But do you
pretend
think
to
that's a
be
bad
transparent?
idea? Like if it's the strike, like if I was them, I would have been like, well, yeah, I would have hid behind the 1.2 report December put out. Like with them being as like sort of corrupt as they are when it comes to the writers and the actors strikes, like I don't know. I think it's a weird choice that they've made in doing this. But again, like they didn't do it for Boba Fett, which is seemingly more successful than Ahsoka was.
So StarWars.com has the article up right now, and it says Ahsoka draws 14 million views for first episode. Here, I'll put the article up on the screen in 1 second. Just let my old ass computer work its shit out for a second, and then we'll read it. But yeah, so it is real.
It's definitely a response to the reports that came up yesterday, like the Samba stuff, like 100%.
Yes,
but
yes.
Again, I would like to know the numbers of everything else. Like, I would like to see how it is performing in comparison to the other shows, because this automatically to them spins a positive, because there's nothing they're comparing it to, and 14 million is undoubtedly a high number. So, but I just want to know, in the grand scheme of things, how it's performed in comparison to the other live action shows. Like when The Mandalorian, when people were saying The Mandalorian was bad, like critically, but also wasn't performing as well as the second season, why didn't you put out the numbers to say, hey, it's actually doing this amount, to try and spin a positive? Because that's what they're doing here.
Oh yeah, no, they are.
I personally could care less how many views they draw. Like, long as they're making good stuff, and it's up to them to market it. Like,
well, if they make good stuff and nobody watches it, though, then they won't be making that.
Well, that's
stuff
more.
anymore.
I think
so
I'm going to tell you, man. That has more to do with the brand Disney Plus. I told you they synonymized Disney Plus, to me, in my opinion, with the term direct to DVD or like direct to video. Like that, it could be HBO. Nobody thought, oh, it's gonna be on HBO. That's gonna be cheap. You knew that was gonna be a big deal.
Sorry, Rob. I don't mean to interrupt you, dude, but they didn't even thank me for the new theme song that drew all the views. The fuck?
I thought someone just accused us for being PR for Lucasfilm. Like, he's like, this show's PR.
But then say, like, it's the most watched title on Disney Plus all week. So again,
they love me here. Now I'm PR. Yeah. Know what I'm saying? I just come on the show. I put butts in seats. Know what I mean?
You put butts on screen, Filoni.
Butts on screen. Oh, I like big butts and I cannot lie.
So, okay.
I cry.
Ahsoka draws 14 million views on first episode. The force was strong with the premiere of Ahsoka, thanks to Star Wars fans. Lucasfilm, the Walt Disney Company, are thrilled and humbled to announce that Part 1 of Ahsoka, Master and Apprentice, was the most watched title on Disney Plus this past week. It was the only show last week. Episode garnered 14 million views, making this number one on the platform. Ahsoka is a favorite with people of all ages, and it's wonderful to see her continue to resonate with viewers in her own headlining series, says Kathleen Kennedy, grabbing Filoni's balls. Lucasfilm president, I want to recognize the fantastic work done by our creative team, led by Dave Filoni, who I have by the balls, and Jon Favreau, who I also have by the balls. The incredible cast led by Rosario Dawson and our talented crew. And on behalf of the team and all of Lucasfilm, we give our thanks to all the fans who have been with Ahsoka on every step of her journey, and to all those who are just learning about her now in Ahsoka on Disney Plus. So that's the article. And like Bespin, what you're saying though, here's the whole thing is what we said at the start of the show still holds water. It's still true. Because if the Samba numbers are saying 1.2 or 1.4, whatever the fuck it was, 1.2, and then we know that Book of Boba Fett had whatever it had that was higher, we know that it's not doing as well as the other show.
No, and again, this is them putting a positive. It's just them putting out 40 million is the high number. The word that uses the most watched Disney Plus title in the past week did not say it's the most watched Star Wars premiere or whatever else. Like, and again,
well, when Caravan of Courage came out, that was the most watched Star Wars that year. I put that press release out, and that's how you do it.
Because when they did the Kenobi thing, they were like, it was the most watched Disney Plus premiere ever for the series, but that was based on minutes watched, which includes repeat viewings, and it had a 2-episode premiere.
Right.
You know, whereas Loki had the most unique viewers. Again, this is just saying 40 million is a positive. It hasn't. They aren't saying it's beat the Star Wars title. Doesn't beat Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, it's just a simple positive headline. And as we all know, people only ever read headlines. So, you know.
Yeah, even on this video, I just read the headline and comment. I don't even watch these videos. Yeah. That's how I do it. Yeah, I don't have time. Yeah.
But that said, actually knowing that 14 million people are watching the show is good. I mean, it is good for the future of Star Wars. When the Clone Wars would top out at about 3 million, a couple episodes got 4 million views, I think, on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, but that's with
mostly
that's
3
for inflation now, you know. And,
George, I don't know what you're talking about, George. The people don't inflate, George. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't. Have you seen Rick? It's not good. It's not good.
Hey, glass houses, George. Glass houses. I should know.
But he has fantastic hair.
No, but 14 million is still a very healthy number for an audience. Like, do you know off the top of your head, that's been like what, like the millions a show like Game of Thrones, House of Dragons would have got? Do we know those numbers?
Yeah, they were getting like close to 30 million an episode.
30 million, so it's like about half of the House of Dragons.
Doing something similar as well. Like The Last of Us went up every episode to getting close to 30.
Yeah, it's doing better in Secret Invasion. I guarantee it. You know,
100%. Yeah, but yeah. So if you want to compare this to, I don't know, like you said, House of the Dragons or The Last of Us, then it's about half of it.
Yeah, and I don't know what the subscriber base difference is, if it's even possible for Ahsoka to compete with that kind of show or not. I have no idea. But at the start of the show, we were talking about Disney Plus being in like a state of decline, and then Disney claiming that it's cricket in India. And I just am throwing it out there. I don't know this for certain, but
they've now got that back in India, and they're giving it to them for free. So that's how desperate they are to get them back.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, anyway, point being is I just don't see most. What did they say that they lost in the end? 200,000?
No, from the US or just
from the US.
300,000.
300,000. So when you get down to it, that's not like really that much of you know, when you have 14 million people watching this show. So if they had those people back, it'd be 14.3 million if those people watched it, you know.
Yeah, Disney Plus has like 200 million subscribers or something. Like,
how many?
Isn't it like 200 million or something?
Wow, really?
I don't know that many. It might be like less than that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They do this weird thing where they like report their combined numbers for Hulu, Disney, and ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that HBO does.
Yeah,
like, they reported for Max and for Discovery Plus,
right?
Like, combined.
Right.
So
that's creative. Yeah. Well, so it's. I'm glad that StarWars.com actually like we're smart enough to go after, you know, how many rodeos is this? The fourth rodeo or something, to go like, this is going to happen, and actually like responded with the actual numbers. I mean, I think
like Rob just said about Secret Invasion, that was a dog shit show, but like they're trying to spin a positive with this based off of the Samba thing. Like, they could do this with every show. Like, they could put it out with Secret Invasion, which had way more like.
That's literally what the strike's about. That's
like they could have put it out
like
with Secret
shows
Invasion
for every show. Yes,
I'd be like, oh, we had 10 million viewers, and it's like people be like, oh, cool, and they think it's a positive thing, you know?
Yeah,
because there's no context to this number. There's no context at all. Like, they've not done this with the other Star Wars shows, not done this with the other Marvel shows. Like, so this standing on its own is just. Oh wow! And then I guarantee you, I'm gonna go on fucking Twitter today, and there's people replying to me being like, "Oh, see, you fucking wrong," you know, like, I had 40 million. Like I fucking.
They don't get their money on views; they get their money on subscriptions. That's the whole thing. So like it's not the same thing as when people tuned in individually to watch a show on 8 o'clock at night, because advertisers are then hitting those numbers, are so advertisers can hit unique viewers. Here, views could be people watched it 100 times. It's not 14 unique million people watched it. It's just views of the show. Like, you can leave the show on repeat. It's subscriptions are where
to us. It's about the health of of Star Wars and where it might be going.
So then, if we want the health of Star Wars, we have to say how many new subscribers did this show generate? Because that's
Which
basically all these things make them, which they will not be able to tell us.
Spen says also dismissing Samba but taking Disney numbers at face value is kind of dude. Samba is just simply a sample, and so Samba's a guess at best.
Samba's going to have like 28 million households in the U.S.
Spence, I thought we were talking about Samba de Amigo for like 10 minutes.
No,
I didn't even know what they were. So it took me a while to figure out what they're talking about. So.
No, so the point is like Spence, the only thing you can do is take Disney's numbers at face value, or otherwise you just can't pay attention to numbers. If your perspective is the people with the numbers, I won't listen to them, but I'll listen to anybody but them. What are you doing? There's just nowhere to go with that.
Samba's just a sample size. It has 28 million like things it tracks or whatever. Like Disney obviously
doing correlation,
but
we're not giving one over the other.
But I am with them that in the sense of what the strike is about. There needs to be some sort of regulatory body that says you need to be honest about what the numbers are. Not even if to us, nobody gives a fuck what if we know the numbers and of what we think. But in terms of like internally, if you go and you write Star Wars Ahsoka season 2, you deserve to know what you're supposed to be paid to make sure that their accounting is accurate. And there's just no oversight with that kind of stuff right now. So yeah, to some extent we are, but that is the best that we have. There is no better place to go. Samba's not better to go. It's not better to go to Samba than to Disney for the numbers. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I believe their numbers 100%, anything that they say 100%. That said, Samba just has to do with how many people that we're tracking watch the show. That's not a healthier, actually not any healthier. And I would say that it, based off of the Samba numbers, I never would have thought it was 14 million. So even if Disney is lying, but again, you could probably still assume it's 10 million if they were lying. I don't think they would. I don't think they'd have 1 million and say it was 14.
No, but the Samba numbers are just US only. This is global views.
Yeah, for sure.
So, even if you like take that as half of that is the US, the 7 million. The Samba offers like 6.
Everybody is getting sued for cooking the numbers across the board. All of
everybody.
Them. All of them are crooks. Every single one of them. So this isn't like so if you take basically like you're going into like a post-truth place where there is no truth. I can't believe anything. Well, you're gonna have to take their word on it, because on this one, or there's just no way to have the conversation, because there's no better way until there is some sort of regulations or something like that, and there's just not. So what can you do? Garth says, let me try to put Garth's comment up. Thank you for the $49 super chat, Garth. Ward, we need the Las Vegas Boxing Commission to be in charge of ratings on streaming services.
Okay, I like this. I like where it's going.
I like where it's going. They could bring Gina Carano back.
A hologram of Don King to give out the numbers, right?
turns out to get those asses in Ahsoka, they were juicing though. They were juicing.
Hey man, that made baseball better. Let's be honest.
It did make baseball better. People cared about
the one
baseball.
time drugs made wrestling and baseball better.
Drugs make everything better. Music. Rock and roll, sports.
Not YouTube.
Not muffins though. Not muffins. I disagree about muffins.
Yeah. Jason's learned.
I had a bad time. But all right. Well, anyways, we've gone way too long because we're coming back tonight to talk about the show. So let's get out of here. Let's call it. Thank you for all the support today, Garth. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody who's a channel member as well and supports the channel monthly. It means a lot.
Garth
we'll be back tonight.
Prime truck. Remember that?
What? The what?
He drove the Optimus Prime truck.
Oh yeah. We'll be back tonight after Ahsoka to talk about the episode, and then we'll probably take the next day off. I guess that's most likely how this will go.
Maybe the next week. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see you like next month, maybe. No, I'm kidding. We'll be back tonight.
That's cool.
And then
We should just ditch the rest of the series and come back.
Just come back on. Didn't like it. Didn't have enough Anakin. Wanted more Anakin
You weren't
in
being
it.
supportive enough. They changed the show. What if by episode 5 it's just storyboards? Like Filoni is changing everything, but he just puts up storyboards. Like,
By the way,
Time
Tyler in the chat who says Toodles, he messaged me on Twitter, and he's like, dude, this picture, what are you doing? Because I just had the big picture of Sabine's ass in the thing for the song. And I'm like, oh, wait till you hear the theme song, buddy. But
yeah.
anyways, I'm trying to hide comments, and it's not working. It just is stuck.
Just
like
delay
this.
on your end.
Yeah, I think the heat is ruined everything. I might need you to end the show, Rob. Do you have that ability?
All right.
Do you have access to that?
I have the ability. All right.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
We're gonna go.
All right, everybody.
Start out. See you.
We'll see everybody later. Bye.
See you later. Bye.